The morning started like any other Tuesday at the Global Defense Command Center in Colorado. Coffee machines hummed, technicians stared at their screens, and Admiral Sarah Chen was reading reports about the usual problems. Pirates near Jupiter, mining disputes on Mars, and 3 broken satellites that needed fixing. Then every screen in the building went white. Not just the building. Every screen on Earth, every phone, every computer, every electronic billboard from New York to Tokyo. Even the old television in Chen's office that she kept for emergencies flickered to life with the same bright white glow. The technicians panicked. Some ran to backup systems. Others started unplugging cables. But Chen just sat back in her chair and waited. She had been expecting this day for months. The white faded, replaced by something beautiful and terrifying. Stars moved in patterns that hurt to look at. Colors that had no names danced across the screens. Then slowly words appeared. Not in English or Chinese or any human language, but somehow everyone on Earth understood them perfectly. Greetings, people of Sol 3. The voice that came with the words sounded like music, like wind chimes made of crystal singing in a gentle breeze. It was the most beautiful sound Chen had ever heard, and it made her skin crawl. We are the Galactic Concord. For 47 cycles we have watched your species grow. We have seen your first steps beyond your world. We have witnessed your achievement of faster-than-light travel. You have proven yourselves worthy of contact. Chen picked up her secure phone and dialed a number she knew by heart. Mr. President? You're seeing this too? Good, yes, sir. I think it's really happening. The message continued across every screen on the planet. The Concord extends an invitation to the people of Earth. Send your finest diplomatic vessel to the neutral zone at Kepler 442b. Bring your cultural ambassadors, your artists, your peacekeepers. We await your arrival with great anticipation. This is a moment of celebration for all species. The screens went black. For exactly 10 seconds, the entire planet was silent. Then every phone on Earth started ringing at once. Chen's office filled with staff officers within minutes. General Rodriguez from the Mars Defense Force called in on video. Director Kim from the Intelligence Division appeared on another screen. The President's aide was on line 3. Everyone was talking at once. Ma'am, our deep space sensors show massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. Admiral, we're detecting quantum fold disturbances in 17 different star systems. Chen, the President wants to know if this is some kind of attack. She held up her hand for silence. What do we know about Kepler 442b? Lieutenant Morrison, her intelligence officer, pulled up a hologram. It's a dead world about 1/200 light-years away. No atmosphere, no life signs. But our long-range sensors have been picking up strange readings from that area for the past 6 months. Artificial structures, energy patterns we don't recognize. How long to get there with our fastest ships? 3 weeks, ma'am. That's with the new jump drives. Chen nodded. 3 weeks was enough time to make some very important decisions. The next day, emergency meetings happened in every capital city. The United Nations called a special session. The Mars colonial government demanded representation. The moon bases wanted to send their own ships. Everyone had opinions about how humanity should respond to its first contact with alien life. Most people wanted to send diplomats. The Secretary of State suggested a cultural exchange ship filled with art, music, and human history. The European Union proposed a science vessel with their best researchers. The African Federation wanted to send philosophers and teachers. Chen attended every meeting via hologram. She listened to hours of debate about what gifts to bring, what languages to translate, what clothes the ambassadors should wear. She said very little. On the 3rd day, she finally spoke up during a UN Security Council meeting. Has anyone considered that this might be a trap? The room went quiet. The French ambassador looked annoyed. Admiral Chen, surely you don't suspect hostile intent. Their message was clearly peaceful, was it? Chen pulled up intelligence reports on the main screen. Our deep space monitoring stations have been tracking unusual activity for 2 years. Ships that don't match any known technology. Signals being sent to Earth that we couldn't decode. And now suddenly they reveal themselves just weeks after we perfected FTL travel? The Russian representative leaned forward. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting they've been watching us longer than they claim. I'm suggesting they knew exactly when we achieved FTL capability, because they've been monitoring us. And I'm suggesting that species who spy on other species for decades might not have peaceful intentions. The Chinese delegate shuffled papers. Even if that's true, what choice do we have? If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression.
That assumes they could destroy us.
What if they can't? What if they need to get us to come to them? More arguing followed. Some delegates called Chen paranoid. Others suggested her military background made her see threats everywhere. The debates continued for days. But while the politicians argued about cultural gifts and diplomatic protocols, Chen was having different conversations. Secret meetings with defense contractors, classified calls with the heads of military research divisions, quiet discussions with ship captains who had seen combat in the Outer Colony Wars. She pulled up personnel files on her private terminal. Captain Marcus Rivera of the TDF Ragnarok, the ship that wasn't supposed to exist. The project that had consumed 30% of Earth's military budget for the past 5 years. 3 kilometers of pure destructive capability. Weapons that existed only in theory until human engineers decided to build them anyway. Armor that could withstand the explosion of a small star. And a crew of 50,000 people who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in human history. The Ragnarok had been built for one purpose: to fight enemies that humanity hadn't met yet. Enemies who might have better technology, bigger ships, and more experience with space warfare. The ship was humanity's answer to the question, what if we encounter something that wants to kill us all? Now Chen was asking a different question. What if we encounter something that wants to control us all? On the 7th day after first contact, she made her decision. The final UN vote was close. Send a diplomatic mission to meet with the Galactic Conquered. Bring gifts of human culture. Show them the best of humanity. Build bridges between species. Chen voted yes along with everyone else. But the ship she ordered to launch wasn't carrying diplomats. 3 days later, the TDF Ragnarok left Earth orbit. Its destination, Kepler 442b. Its mission, classified. Its cargo manifest listed no cultural attachments, no artists, no peace offerings. Instead, the ship carried xenobiology warfare specialists, quantum physicists, and the most decorated soldiers in human space. Its weapon systems had been upgraded with experimental technology that violated several laws of physics. Its captain had orders that would make the bravest diplomat run screaming. As the ship disappeared into jump space, Chen stood at her office window looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 47 alien species were waiting for humanity's diplomatic response. They were going to get one, just not the kind they expected. "Good hunting, Captain Rivera," she whispered to the empty sky. The Galactic Conquered had invited Earth to join their peaceful community of species. They had extended the hand of friendship across the stars. They had offered guidance and protection to humanity's children. But they had made one crucial mistake in their beautiful musical message. They had assumed that humanity wanted to be protected. Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the TDF Ragnarok and watched stars bend around his ship. The jump drive hummed beneath his feet, pushing 3 kilometers of metal and weapons through space at speeds that made light look slow. His crew of 50,000 worked in shifts around the clock. Engineers checked the experimental weapon systems. Soldiers practiced combat drills in gravity chambers. Scientists studied alien technology samples that officially didn't exist. Rivera was 45 years old and had spent half his life fighting wars. The Mars Colony Rebellion, the asteroid mining conflicts, the terrible 3-month battle for Europa Station where 200,000 people died. He knew what war looked like, smelled like, felt like when it crawled under your skin and made you wake up screaming. But this was different. This wasn't war. Not yet. This was humanity's introduction to the galaxy. "Captain," his communications officer called out. Lieutenant Sarah Park had been monitoring alien transmissions for the entire 2-week journey. "We're picking up massive comm traffic ahead. Dozens of different languages, all translated through some kind of universal system. What are they saying?" "They're excited, sir. Really excited. They keep talking about the young species from Sol and how historic this moment is. They're planning some kind of celebration." Rivera felt something cold settle in his stomach. A celebration. They were throwing a party for humanity's arrival. Commander Elena Santos, his first officer, stepped up beside him. Santos had fought beside Rivera on Mars, where they had learned that the enemy's biggest weakness was usually their assumptions about human behavior. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the target system. We've got over 200 alien ships in formation around Kepler 442b. They're not in defensive positions. It looks more like an honor guard. Rivera studied the tactical display. The alien ships were beautiful. Sleek curves, energy-efficient designs, no visible weapon systems. They looked like art pieces floating in space. Ships built by civilizations that had forgotten what war looked like. Weapon status? All systems green, Captain. Antimatter torpedoes loaded and ready. Gravitational wave cannons charging. The reality warping array is online. The weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, had tested every system twice. Sir, we could destroy every ship in that system without breaking a sweat. That was the problem. Rivera had hoped to find a threat. Enemy ships with big guns and hostile intentions. Something that would justify humanity's response to the galaxy's invitation. Instead, he found a welcoming committee. Captain Rivera? Park looked up from her communication station. We're receiving a message. It's from something calling itself the Galactic Concord Diplomatic Station. They're asking us to identify ourselves and state our peaceful intentions. Rivera almost laughed. Peaceful intentions. They wanted him to announce his peaceful intentions while commanding a ship designed to crack planets in half. Open a channel. Sir, I should mention that every alien ship in the system is monitoring this frequency. Whatever you say, they'll all hear it. Good. The main screen flickered to life, showing what looked like a crystal palace floating in space. Beautiful architecture that seemed to grow like living coral. Lights that pulsed in patterns too complex for human eyes to follow. It was the most magnificent thing Rivera had ever seen, and it made him angry. An alien face appeared on the screen. Tall, elegant features with skin that looked like polished silver. Large eyes that held intelligence and curiosity. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, though Rivera could see its mouth moving in different patterns. Greetings. Ship from Earth. I am Ambassador Zethkri of the Ethereal Dominion, speaking for the Galactic Concord. We welcome you to our neutral zone. We have prepared quarters suitable for your diplomatic mission. Please transmit your crew manifest and cultural exchange documentation. Rivera looked at Santos. She shrugged. They both knew there was no diplomatic mission aboard the Ragnarok. Ambassador Zethkri, this is Captain Marcus Rivera of the Terran Defense Force ship Ragnarok. We don't have any cultural exchange documentation. The alien's expression shifted slightly. Confusion, maybe concern. Captain Rivera, forgive me, but our sensors indicate your vessel is unusually large for a diplomatic mission. Perhaps there has been a translation error. Rivera checked his tactical display again. 200 alien ships, all watching his every move, all waiting to see how humanity would introduce itself to the galaxy. He made his decision. No translation error, Ambassador. This is how humans do diplomacy. The bridge went quiet. Every officer stopped what they were doing and looked at their captain. Santos raised an eyebrow. Jackson put his hand closer to the weapons controls. On the screen, Ambassador Zethkri blinked slowly. Captain Rivera, I confess some confusion. Our records indicate that diplomatic first contact typically involves cultural representatives, not military vessels. Your records are based on other species. Humans do things differently. I see. And the purpose of your impressive vessel? Rivera smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. This ship exists to protect humanity's interests. The fact that we brought it to a diplomatic meeting should tell you how seriously we take those interests. More alien faces appeared on secondary screens. Dozens of different species, all connected to the communication channel. All listening to humanity's first words to the galaxy. A new voice joined the conversation. This one sounded older, more concerned. Captain Rivera, I am High Counselor Vrex of the Concord Central Authority. Perhaps we can arrange a private discussion. There seems to be some cultural misunderstanding here. No misunderstanding, Rivera replied. You invited Earth to join your galactic community. You offered us guidance and protection. You wanted to meet humanity. He paused, looking directly into the camera. Congratulations. You're meeting us. The crystal station's shield suddenly activated. Rivera could see the energy barriers flickering to life around the alien structure. Other ships in the system began moving to new positions. Not attacking positions, but definitely defensive ones. Captain, Santos whispered. They're scared of us. They should be. Ambassador Zethkri appeared on screen again, trying to maintain diplomatic composure. Captain Rivera, the Concord has always been committed to peaceful relations with all species. We have guided the development of 47 civilizations. We have prevented countless wars and conflicts. Our only desire is to help younger species avoid the mistakes that have plagued galactic history. Rivera felt his anger rising. Guided development? You mean controlled development? You decided when we could have FTL drives. You decided when we were ready for contact. You've been managing us like children. The galaxy can be dangerous for unprepared species. We are the dangerous species. Rivera's voice echoed through every speaker in the system. Do you want to know why humans built this ship, Ambassador? Because we looked at the galaxy and assumed it was full of things that wanted to kill us, so we built something that could kill them first. Silence filled the communication channel. Rivera could see alien faces on dozens of screens, all staring at him with expressions he couldn't read. Fear, maybe. Confusion, definitely. And you know what the interesting thing is? Rivera continued. We were wrong. The galaxy isn't full of species that want to destroy us. It's full of species that want to control us. Which is worse? High Counselor Vrex's voice came through the speakers, carefully controlled. Captain Rivera, I believe there has been a serious misunderstanding. The Concord does not control other species. We guide them. We protect them, without asking if they want protection. Sometimes young species do not understand what is best for them. Rivera looked at Santos again. She nodded. They both understood now. Thank you for clarifying your position, High Counselor. Now let me clarify ours. Rivera straightened in his captain's chair. Humanity rejects your guidance. We reject your protection. We reject any attempt to manage our development or control our choices. Captain, you cannot simply reject the natural order of galactic civilization. Watch us. Rivera gestured to his weapons officer. Jackson's hands moved over his controls. On every screen in the system, targeting data appeared. Every alien ship was highlighted in red. Distance calculations, weapon trajectories, estimated destruction times. The tactical computer had analyzed every vessel in the system and determined exactly how to destroy them all in under 60 seconds. The aliens went very quiet. This is what humans call a demonstration of intent, Rivera said calmly. We're not here to join your community as junior members seeking guidance. We're here to establish the terms of our relationship with the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkri's voice was barely a whisper. What terms? Simple. Leave us alone. Let us make our own choices, our own mistakes, our own destiny. In return, we'll extend the same courtesy to you. And if we refuse? Rivera smiled again. This time it was definitely not friendly. Then you'll find out why we built ships like this one. The next 24 hours were the longest in galactic history. Ambassador Zethkri stood in the central command chamber of the Concord diplomatic station, surrounded by holograms of the most important leaders in the galaxy. 47 species, thousands of years of combined civilization, all trying to understand what had gone wrong with humanity's first contact. The human ship hung in space, like a dark metal mountain. 3 kilometers of weapons and armor that shouldn't exist. Every sensor array in the system was focused on it, trying to understand how such a primitive species had built something so terrifying. The ship's energy output is beyond our comprehension, reported Chief Science Officer Klenn of the Valdorian Empire. Their weapon systems appear to operate on principles we haven't seen before. Antimatter manipulation, gravitational field distortion, and something our computers can't even classify. High Counselor Vrex paced around the holographic display of the human vessel. How did we miss this? Our monitoring stations have been watching Earth for decades. We saw their first space flights, their primitive nuclear weapons, their struggling attempts at interplanetary travel. They hid it from us, said General Thax of the Crenarian Military Council. While we watched their public developments, they were secretly building this. He gestured at the tactical display showing the Ragnarok's weapon systems. The question is why? Ambassador Zethkri had been asking the same question. The humans had seemed so promising, creative, diverse, showing rapid technological progress, perfect candidates for conquered guidance. They should have been grateful for the opportunity to join galactic civilization. Instead, they had sent a planet killer. Sir, the station's communication officer called out. The human ship is requesting permission to dock. Captain Rivera wants to come aboard for face-to-face negotiations. The room fell silent. Every holographic representative stared at the communication station. He wants to what? High Counselor Vrex asked. Come aboard, sir. Alone. He says he wants to discuss terms of engagement. General Thax laughed. but it wasn't a happy sound. Terms of engagement? Is that what humans call surrender negotiations? I don't think he's surrendering, Zethkri said quietly. Our sensors show his ship's weapons are still powered and ready. This isn't defeat. This is confidence. Chief Scientist Klenn studied the sensor readings again. Ambassador, I've been analyzing their ship's construction. The materials they used, the energy systems, the weapon configurations. This isn't just advanced technology. This is military thinking unlike anything we've encountered. Explain. Most species develop weapons as tools of last resort. Protection against pirates, defense against natural disasters, deterrence against aggression. But humans appear to have developed weapons as primary tools of diplomacy. Dr. May of the Paxian Council shook her head. That's impossible. No civilized species uses weapons as diplomatic tools. We're not dealing with a civilized species, General Thax muttered. We're dealing with barbarians who learned to build starships. Zethkri studied the human ship again. 3 kilometers of metal and death floating peacefully in space. No aggressive movements, no hostile actions. Just an implicit threat that hung in the void like a sword over every alien head in the system. Grant his request, Zethkri decided. Let Captain Rivera come aboard. Are you insane? General Thax demanded. He could be carrying weapons, biological agents, explosive devices. If he wanted to destroy us, he wouldn't need to come aboard to do it. Zethkri gestured at the tactical display. His ship could annihilate this station from where it sits. The fact that he wants to talk face-to-face means he might actually be interested in diplomacy. Human diplomacy, Dr. May corrected, which apparently involves threatening everyone first. 2 hours later, Captain Rivera's shuttle docked with the diplomatic station. The small human craft looked like a toy next to the elegant alien architecture, but somehow its simple, functional design made the beautiful crystal structures seem fragile by comparison. Zethkri waited in the main reception chamber, surrounded by the finest art and culture from across the galaxy, paintings that showed the beauty of 100 worlds, music that played in frequencies most species couldn't hear, sculptures made from materials that existed nowhere in nature, all designed to show visiting species the wonders they could join if they embraced Concord. Guidance. Captain Rivera walked through the chamber like he was inspecting a military facility. He barely glanced at the priceless artwork. His eyes moved constantly, cataloging exits, defensive positions, potential threats. Everything about him screamed soldier. But when he spoke, his voice was calm and reasonable. Ambassador Zethkri, thank you for agreeing to meet. Your station is beautiful. Thank you, Captain Rivera. Please sit. Can we offer you refreshment? Food suitable for human biology? Rivera remained standing. I appreciate the offer, but I won't be staying long. I'm here to clarify some things that seem to have gotten lost in translation. Zethkri gestured to the viewing ports that showed the human battleship floating in space. Captain, I must admit confusion about your methods. In 47 previous first contacts, no species has ever arrived with such overwhelming military presence. Maybe that's the problem. I'm sorry. Rivera moved to one of the viewing ports and looked out at the Concord fleet. 200 ships representing dozens of species, all beautiful, all peaceful, all completely unprepared for what humanity had brought to their party. You've been doing this for how long? Managing first contact with new species? The Concord has guided galactic civilization for over 3,000 years. 3,000 years of species showing up with their best diplomatic behavior. Polite requests to join your community. Grateful acceptance of your guidance. Rivera turned from the window. Has anyone ever said no? Zethkri considered the question. Some species have required more time to understand the benefits of Concord membership. But eventually, all civilized races recognize the wisdom of cooperative development. All civilized races. Rivera smiled, and Zethkri felt a chill run through his body. There's that word again, civilized. Captain, I hope you don't think we consider humans uncivilized. Your technological achievements are remarkable. Your cultural diversity is fascinating. You have tremendous potential. Under your guidance. With our help, yes. Rivera walked around the reception chamber, examining the displays of galactic culture. He stopped in front of a memorial wall showing the peaceful integration of 47 species into Concord society. Tell me about the species that didn't make it onto this wall. He said. The question hit Zethkri like cold water. I'm not sure what you mean. 3,000 years of galactic civilization. 47 successful integrations. What happened to the species you couldn't integrate? Silence filled the chamber. Through the viewing ports, alien ships waited for answers that no one wanted to give. Some species chose isolation, Zethkri said carefully. They preferred to remain in their home systems. Chose isolation, or were forced into isolation. Captain Rivera, I assure you the Concorde has never forced. What about species that were too aggressive, too independent, too dangerous to integrate into your peaceful community? More silence. Rivera nodded as if Zethkri had answered. You quarantined them, built barriers around their systems, cut them off from galactic civilization until they died out or learned to behave. The galaxy requires order. High Counselor Vrex's voice came through the chamber speakers. Some species present threats to peaceful civilization. They must be contained. And you think humanity is one of those species? We hoped you wouldn't be. Rivera returned to the viewing port, looking out at his ship. The Ragnarok waited in space like a sleeping predator, beautiful in its deadly efficiency. You're right about one thing, Rivera said. Humanity is dangerous. We build weapons that violate the laws of physics. We solve problems with overwhelming force. We escalate conflicts instead of backing down from them. Then you understand why the Concorde must be cautious. But you made a mistake in your analysis. Rivera faced the alien diplomat. You assumed that dangerous meant stupid. You assumed that aggressive meant uncontrollable. Zethkri felt something shift in the conversation. The human captain's tone hadn't changed, but suddenly the beautiful reception chamber felt like a trap. Humans aren't just dangerous, Ambassador. We're selectively dangerous. We can be the most peaceful species in the galaxy when we're treated with respect. We can also be the most destructive force you've ever encountered when we're not. What are you saying? Rivera gestured toward the viewing port, where 200 alien ships surrounded one human battleship. I'm saying that right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can try to quarantine humanity like you did the other uncivilized species. You can attempt to force us into compliance with your galactic order. Or you can recognize that some species don't need guidance. Some species need partners, not parents. The chamber fell silent again. Through the speakers, Zethkri could hear dozens of alien voices debating in languages from across the galaxy. Fear, confusion, and something that might have been hope. What kind of partnership are you proposing? Zethkri asked. Rivera smiled again. This time it almost looked friendly. The kind where you don't try to manage us and we don't demonstrate why that's a bad idea. The emergency council session lasted 18 hours. Representatives from 47 species argued across quantum communication networks that spanned the galaxy. Some wanted to immediately mobilize their combined fleets against the human threat. Others suggested diplomatic solutions. A few species quietly began calculating jump routes back to their home systems. Captain Rivera waited aboard the diplomatic station, while the aliens debated humanity's fate. He spent the time touring their facilities, examining their technology, and asking questions that made everyone nervous. This power system, he said to Chief Engineer Zolax while studying a fusion reactor, it's very efficient. Clean energy, minimal waste. How much power does it generate? Approximately 57 million terawatts per hour, Zolax replied proudly. Enough to power a small planet. Rivera nodded thoughtfully. Our ship's main reactor generates about 4 billion terawatts per hour. Just the backup systems produce more energy than your primary array. The engineer's tentacles went pale. That seems excessive for a diplomatic vessel. We are not a diplomatic vessel, Rivera reminded him gently. Similar conversations happened throughout the station. Human engineering was compared to alien technology. Human military doctrine was discussed with alien strategists who had never seen real war. Human philosophy was examined by species who had forgotten what independence looked like. The conclusion was always the same. Humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Ambassador Zethkri found Rivera in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. The human captain stood perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back, studying the galaxy like he was planning to conquer it. The council has reached a decision, Zethkri said. I figured they would eventually. What did they decide? The Concord offers humanity full membership with autonomous system status. You would have complete control over your territory, while maintaining peaceful relations with other species. No guidance requirements, no development oversight. Rivera turned from the window. That's generous. What's the catch? No catch. The Conquered simply wishes to avoid misunderstandings with your species. You mean you're scared of us? Seth Kree's silver skin flushed slightly. The Council recognizes that humanity has unique characteristics that may not be compatible with traditional integration protocols. We terrify you. Yes, Seth Kree admitted. Your ship alone could destroy half the vessels in this system. Your weapons technology exceeds our understanding. Your military capabilities suggest a level of aggressive development that we've never encountered. Rivera smiled. And that's before you've seen what we can really do. Something cold settled in Seth Kree's stomach. What do you mean? The Ragnarok isn't our most advanced ship, Ambassador. It's just the only one we felt comfortable bringing to a diplomatic meeting. How many ships like this do you have? That's classified. But I can tell you that humanity takes defense very seriously. We've spent the last 50 years preparing for the possibility that we might encounter hostile alien species. We're not hostile, Seth Kree protested. No, but you are controlling, which is almost worse. Rivera returned to the window. Tell me, Ambassador, what happens to species that refuse Concord membership? They remain in their home systems. They're welcome to develop independently. Under blockade? Seth Kree said nothing. That's what I thought. Rivera gestured toward the alien fleet surrounding his ship. 200 ships, representatives from dozens of species, all here to welcome humanity to galactic civilization. But none of them are from the species you couldn't integrate, are they? Some species prefer isolation. Some species are prisoners. Rivera's voice hardened. You build barriers around their systems. You monitor their communications. You make sure they can't spread their dangerous ideas to other worlds. The galaxy requires stability. The galaxy requires freedom. Rivera faced the alien diplomat, and that's what humanity is here to provide. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red and amber. Through the observation deck speakers, panicked voices called out in a dozen alien languages. What's happening? Seth Kree demanded. Rivera checked a small device on his wrist. My weapons officer just detected several Conquered ships moving to intercept positions. Are you trying to surround us, Ambassador? The Council ordered defensive formations. Defensive formations look a lot like attack formations from where I'm standing. More alarms. The station shields activated automatically, throwing blue energy barriers around the crystal structure. Every Concord ship in the system began broadcasting emergency signals. Captain Rivera, High Counselor Varex's voice came through the speakers. Please instruct your vessel to power down its weapon systems. Our sensors indicate charging sequences for multiple weapon types. Rivera touched his wrist device. Captain Rivera to Ragnarok. Status report. Commander Santos's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. Sir, we've detected movement from the alien fleet. They're not taking aggressive positions, but they are positioning for potential containment. Weapons are charged and ready on your orders. Thank you, Commander. Maintain current readiness level. Seth Kree grabbed Rivera's arm. Captain, please, this is all a misunderstanding. The Council is simply being cautious. The Council is making a mistake. Rivera pulled free from the alien's grip. You want to see what human weapons can do? You want to understand why we built ships like the Ragnarok? Captain, please. Rivera touched his wrist device again. Commander Santos, you see that dead moon in the outer system? The one with no strategic value? Yes, sir. Sensor contact designated Mike 7. Consider it a demonstration target. Full power, all available systems. Sir, are you sure? That's a lot of firepower for a demonstration. I want to make sure everyone gets the point. Seth Kree looked out the observation window at the small, lifeless moon orbiting the system's outer planet. A chunk of rock and ice about 800 kilometers in diameter. Completely unremarkable except for the fact that it was about to cease existing. Captain Rivera, surely this is unnecessary. This is very necessary. Rivera watched the Ragnarok's weapon systems come online. Energy readings that made the station's sensors overload. Power signatures that violated several laws of physics. Your council needs to understand what they're dealing with. The first weapon that fired was the antimatter torpedo array. 16 projectiles that existed in a state of barely contained destruction. They streaked across space at near light speed, each one carrying enough antimatter to vaporize a city. The moon's surface exploded in 16 brilliant flashes. But that was just the beginning. The gravitational wave cannons fired next. Invisible weapons that reached across space and twisted reality itself. They grabbed the moon's gravity well and compressed it, crushed it, turned it inside out at the quantum level. The moon imploded. Then the reality warping array activated, experimental technology that existed only in human laboratories and the imagination of theoretical physicists. It reached into the fundamental forces that held matter together and gently suggested they stop working. The moon didn't just disappear. It ceased to have ever existed. The space where it had been became empty in a way that hurt to look at, a void that seemed to pull light and matter into non-existence. The gravitational shockwave hit every ship in the system 30 seconds later. Artificial gravity systems fluctuated. Navigation computers crashed. Several alien vessels nearly collided as their pilots struggled to understand what had just happened. The Ragnarok sat in space unchanged, its weapon systems cycling down to standby mode. Complete silence filled the communication networks. 200 alien ships, 47 species, thousands of years of galactic civilization all staring at the place where a moon used to be. Rivera's wrist device crackled. "Captain, this is Santos." "Mission accomplished. The target has been completely eliminated. All systems are green and ready for additional demonstrations if required." "Thank you, Commander. Stand down to normal alert status." Zethakri stared out the observation window with an expression that had no name in any language. His silver skin had gone completely white. His large eyes couldn't seem to focus on anything. "That moon," he whispered, "had been orbiting that planet for 2 million years. Now it hasn't," Rivera said calmly. "The reality warping array doesn't just destroy things. It removes them from the timeline entirely. As far as the universe is concerned, that moon never existed. That's impossible. Human science doesn't recognize impossible. We prefer improbable." High Counselor Vrex's voice came through the speakers, barely controlled panic evident in every word. "Captain Rivera, what did your ship just do?" "We demonstrated human military capabilities."
Was the demonstration adequate?
"You destroyed a moon. We removed a moon. There's a difference." "What difference?" Rivera smiled and touched his wrist device. "Commander Santos, please display the current weapon status to all ships in the system." Every alien vessel's sensors immediately detected the Ragnarok's weapon systems. All of them online. All of them charged. All of them ready to fire again. "The difference," Rivera explained to the terrified Galactic Council, "is that we did it with about 2% of our available firepower. The rest of our weapons are still ready for use." Ambassador Zethkri collapsed into a chair. "What do you want from us?" 3 days passed in the strangest silence the galaxy had ever experienced. The Concorde fleet remained in formation around Kepler 442b, but no one moved. No one spoke. Every species in the system spent their time staring at the empty space where a moon used to exist and trying to understand what humanity's arrival meant for galactic civilization. Captain Rivera remained aboard the Diplomatic, station as the guest of Ambassador Zethkri. He spent his time reading alien literature, studying their art, and asking questions that kept everyone awake at night. "This poem," he said to Dr. Yilan, the station's cultural specialist, while examining a holographic display, "it's about the peaceful integration of the Selvani species 200 years ago. Very beautiful. What happened to their original government?" "The Selvani chose to adopt conquered governmental structures for improved efficiency," Dr. Yilan replied carefully. "They chose to." "And their military forces?" "Disbanded. The conquered provides all necessary security." Rivera nodded thoughtfully. "And their cultural traditions that conflicted with conquered values? Modified to promote galactic harmony. So they gave up their government, their military, and their culture. But they chose to do this." Dr. Yilan shifted uncomfortably. "Integration can be complex. I'm sure it can." Similar conversations happened throughout Rivera's stay. Alien historians explained how dozens of species had voluntarily abandoned their independence. Alien philosophers described the benefits of unified galactic culture. Alien military officers discussed the peace that came from conquered protection. Every conversation ended the same way, with aliens realizing that humanity would never accept such integration. On the third morning, Ambassador Zethkri found Rivera in the station's main conference room, studying holographic displays of every species in conquered space. "The Council has completed its deliberations," Zethkri announced. Rivera looked up from a display showing the quarantine systems where non-integrated species lived in isolation. What did they decide? The Galactic Concord officially recognizes humanity as a sovereign species with full autonomous system rights. Human space is designated as independent territory. No Concord vessels will enter your systems without explicit invitation. No guidance requirements will be imposed. No development oversight will be established. That's a good start. What else? Zethkri seemed surprised. What else? You're giving humanity what we want. What do we give you in return? The alien diplomat sat down slowly. Captain, I must admit confusion. You arrived with overwhelming military force. You demonstrated weapons that exceed our understanding. You've made it clear that humanity will not accept Concord authority. What could you possibly offer us? Rivera smiled and gestured to the holographic displays around the room. We offer you the same thing we're asking for ourselves: freedom. I don't understand. Rivera manipulated the holographic controls, highlighting the quarantine systems. 43 species, locked in their home systems for refusing Concord integration, some for hundreds of years. What if we told you that humanity considers this imprisonment? These species chose isolation rather than civilization. These species chose independence rather than surrender, just like we're doing now. Rivera stood and walked around the conference table. The difference is that humanity has the firepower to enforce our choice. Zethkri felt something cold settle in his stomach. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that the galaxy might be more interesting with a little diversity. Species that develop their own governments, their own cultures, their own solutions to problems. The quarantined systems are quarantined for good reason. Some of those species are violent, aggressive, difficult to control. Sounds familiar. Rivera's smile wasn't entirely friendly. Tell me, Ambassador, how long do you think those quarantine barriers would last against human technology? The question hung in the air like a threat. Through the conference room speakers, Zethkri could hear panicked voices from the ongoing council session. The representatives of 47 species, all trying to understand what humanity's arrival meant for their carefully ordered galaxy. You would attack Concord installations? Zethkri asked. We would liberate imprisoned species. Rivera returned to the holographic display. Unless, of course, the Concord decided that maybe galactic civilization could handle a little independence. You're talking about chaos. Dozens of uncontrolled species developing weapons, expanding their territory, possibly threatening peaceful worlds. I'm talking about freedom. The right of every species to make their own choices, even if those choices are wrong. Zethkri stared at the display showing humanity's military capabilities. One ship had destroyed a moon with casual ease. 17 more ships existed somewhere in human space, each potentially more dangerous than the last. What exactly are you proposing? Rivera manipulated the holographic controls again, showing trade routes, communication networks, and diplomatic connections that could exist between independent species. Partnership instead of dominance. Cooperation instead of control. A galaxy where species work together because they choose to, not because they're forced to. And if some species choose violence, if they attack peaceful worlds, then humanity will be happy to discuss their poor life choices with them. Rivera's expression grew serious. We're not proposing anarchy, Ambassador. We're proposing accountability. Species that behave badly will face consequences. But those consequences will come from their neighbors, not from an overarching authority that decides what's best for everyone. The conference room door opened, and High Counselor Vrex entered with a group of senior representatives, the most powerful beings in galactic civilization, all looking like they hadn't slept in days. Captain Rivera, Vrex said, the Council has considered your suggestions regarding the quarantine systems, and we believe some form of graduated independence program might be possible. Certain species that have shown peaceful development could be allowed limited expansion rights. Rivera shook his head. That's not what I suggested. Captain, you must understand that some of these species are genuinely dangerous. So are we. Rivera gestured toward the viewing ports where the Ragnarok waited in space. The difference is that dangerous doesn't mean stupid. Give these species their freedom, and most of them will be perfectly reasonable neighbors. The few that aren't will learn quickly that the galaxy has new rules. What new rules? Simple ones. Every species has the right to independence. Every species has the right to self-determination. And every species has the responsibility to respect those rights in others. General Thax of the Cronarian Military Council stepped forward. And if they don't respect those rights? Rivera's smile returned, sharp and dangerous. Then they'll discover that humanity takes those responsibilities very seriously. The room fell silent. 47 species, thousands of years of galactic civilization, all trying to understand how one species with 18 ships had changed everything. There's one more thing, Rivera said quietly. What? Frex asked, though he looked like he didn't want to know. Humanity is establishing diplomatic relations with every species in the galaxy, including the ones you've quarantined. We'll be sending cultural exchange programs, trade agreements, and defense partnerships to all of them. That's impossible. The quarantine barriers will not stop human ships. Rivera touched his wrist device. Commander Santos, please display our penetration analysis of conquered quarantine technology. Data appeared on every screen in the conference room. Technical specifications showing exactly how human ships could bypass, disable, or simply destroy every barrier the Concord had ever built. We're not asking permission, Rivera continued. We're informing you of our intentions. Humanity will establish relations with every species that wants them. The quarantines end now. Ambassador Zethkri looked at the technical data with growing horror. Captain, some of these species haven't had outside contact for centuries. The cultural shock alone could destabilize entire civilizations. Then they'll adapt, or they won't. But that will be their choice to make. High Counselor Varek studied the human captain with something that might have been respect. You're not just changing humanity's relationship with the galaxy. You're changing the galaxy itself. Someone had to. You've been managing galactic civilization for 3,000 years. And what do you have to show for it? 47 identical species that all think the same way, act the same way, and solve problems the same way. That's not civilization. That's a collective. And what would you call what you're proposing? Rivera looked out at the stars, at the galaxy that was about to become a much more interesting place. Evolution. 6 months later, the first formerly quarantined species sent an ambassador to Earth. The Vraxians had been isolated for 400 years after refusing to abandon their warrior culture. Their representative was a scarred veteran who had fought in the last war before quarantine. He
Met with Admiral Sarah Chen in the same Colorado Command Center where
humanity's response to alien contact had been planned. You're Captain Rivera, the Vraxian ambassador said. He kept his promise. The barriers around our system are gone. We are free to travel the stars again. Good, Chen replied. What will your people do with that freedom? The alien warrior smiled, showing teeth that were clearly designed for hunting. We will explore.